This is the Sunday motivational video. Every Sunday, we bring you a different type of video which should improve your life. Today, we're looking at 15 lies you've been told. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello, Aluxers. What if I told you that ever since you were born, people have been lying to you? You'd probably say that this is preposterous, or we have some sort of agenda, but the truth is, people have been modifying the truth for ages. They strategically modify the truth for personal gain, and justifying it by saying it's in order to protect others from answers that might hurt them. These are not so much lies as they are deceits, sometimes willingly, sometimes because they can't explain it otherwise. We want you to go through this video with an open mind and remember that cases vary from person to person. We did our best to put together a list which should apply to most of you. Go through it and do what you want with this information. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. Here are 15 lies that you've been told. Number 1. You can be whatever you want. That's an interesting one to start with, because it's mostly bullshit. Breaking it down, you can become anything that is within the realm of possibility, as long as the environment allows it. You have access to the right tools and the willingness to make it happen at the considerable expense of other aspects in your life. Anything else is just extra. Parents and teachers should nurture curiosity and the ability to find answers yourself. Imagine if in the 12 years you spent in school, you were actually given the opportunity to find who you are, what you're passionate about, learn how to behave with other people, and be happy. How magical would that be? Instead, we tell children they can be anything they want and then strip away the tools that would allow them to actually be good at something, because we are unable to properly educate them. Number 2. You're beautiful. Guess what? You're not everyone at least. Beauty is subjective to education, environment, time frame, chemistry, and more. Beauty is one of those concepts that evolves with time, so beautiful now could actually mean ugly in the past or in the future. Don't believe us? Here's a picture of Princess Zahra Khanum of the Qajar dynasty in Persia. At that time, she was considered to be the most beautiful woman in the world. So much so that poems of the time relate to men committing suicide after she rejected them. Beauty at that time and place came from females having more masculine features. Even recently, look at the perception of beauty when it comes to both men and women and how it's changed in the last 50 years. Marilyn Monroe would qualify as a plus-size model today, and 2016 was a really weird year for beards, as you might remember. So, why do your parents and grandparents tell you you're beautiful? It's because you look like them. Beyond the standards of beauty we are so bombarded with, we see in a different light people whom we have a connection with. Beyond that, there's also a bond between parents and children, since bearing children is the ultimate act of self-love one can make. You are so narcissistic about yourself that you believe the world needs more of you. That love of self is now transferred onto the mini-you. Number 3. God has a plan for you. We can almost hear the keyboards tapping away in the comments section just for mentioning God. We're not here to judge your beliefs, nor do we care. What's important to this community is what actions you're taking in order to better yourself and those around you. You are a tiny organism on a tiny rock floating through space. You're one of the billions of iterations humankind has pushed through in order to test super small differences and see if you'll survive. Given these circumstances, we encourage you to find a purpose for yourself and not await for any external force to show you what that is. In the grand scheme of things, you are insignificant, but for those around you, you are important, and with the right choices, you can have a happy and impactful life. Write the plan yourself, and then go execute it. Number 4. You need to go to school to be successful. The West has already figured this out. It's the East that's somewhat behind in terms of having the minimum amount of education across its population. As long as you know how to read and write, you can access vast libraries of information. There's no longer the need to know every single river in your country by heart, or do advanced mathematics, unless you plan on going to a river naming contest and respectively becoming a mathematics teacher. School was supposed to equate to knowledge, but in developed societies, we've already moved forward from that. Big tech companies no longer require you to have a piece of paper that says you've wasted so many years of your life copying and pasting stuff from Wikipedia. Instead, the world is now centered around how much value you can provide to us. Success comes from being valuable. Becoming valuable is accessible to anyone with an internet connection and a device. The book that made the biggest difference in our lives is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which perfectly breaks down the myth of going to school in order to be successful. If you go to Alux.com/freebook and sign up, you can get it for free as an audiobook. You're welcome. Number 5. There's only so much to go around. They taught you this because they didn't know any better. People used to believe that if someone wins, someone else is losing. They used to have this limited mindset, and don't get us wrong, so many people still do. They are under the impression that there's a limited amount of pie, and if someone gets more from it, the others will have to settle for what's left. In the recent decades, we've figured out how to make the pie bigger, and even to make a lot more pies, through innovation and technological breakthroughs. In the last 10 years alone, the gross world product, meaning how much value the world produces, has more than doubled. Emerging economies are figuring out how to create more value, and we're seeing them bloom. This is a very common misconception between people who have no understanding of how economies work. We made a really great video about 15 things poor people get wrong about money, which you can check out by clicking in the top right corner. It's these misunderstandings that are keeping them poor. Number 6. You only use 10% of your brain. This is one of those myths that for some reason stuck around and was even promoted by the media, giving birth to the entire mini industry where people fool others into purchasing products that open up the remaining 90%. Although there are brain-enhancing drugs on the market, that's not how they work at all. This ain't limitless. Truth is, the brain never stops working in its entirety. Depending on what function you're performing, different parts of the brain might be more active than others, but your entire brain is still functioning to its potential. This myth started in the 1900s when the American psychologist William James stated that people only reach a percentage of their potential in life. Instead of looking at data and realizing that hitting your potential is a matter of sacrifice, dedication, hard work, and intellect, they deducted that maybe it's just because you were only using 10% of your brain. For some reason, despite having one of the largest brains in anything alive and being the result of millions of years of evolution, where nature removed anything unnecessary from us, some people still believe that most of their brain is just a cushion. Number 7. Diamonds are rare and valuable. Okay, let's talk diamonds for a second. Apart from the very specific industrial uses, most people are familiar with diamonds in the form of jewelry, making them one of the most valuable substances on Earth. But did you know that before the 1930s, nobody proposed with a diamond engagement ring? They didn't propose with a ring at all. So, how did this happen? The largest diamond company in the world at the time was De Beers. They basically had a monopoly on diamond mining. You know how they say diamonds are rare? Actually, they're not. De Beers controls almost the entire diamond market and restrains supply artificially so the prices they sell diamonds for go up. In reality, diamonds are pretty common. In 1938, De Beers decided to do one of the most effective ad campaigns in the history of the world. Everywhere you looked, they would promote the idea that the only way to begin a marriage is by buying your spouse an expensive diamond ring. They even strategically marketed the rule that you should spend 2 months' worth of salary on the ring, otherwise you'll be seen as a cheap bastard who doesn't care about the relationship. Wouldn't call it a scam, but you're pretty much getting screwed over either way, because diamonds on the resale market have very little value. That's why they say diamonds are forever. In truth, diamonds don't really have any real value. Don't take it from us. Take it from De Beers chairman Nicky Oppenheimer, who actually said diamonds are intrinsically worthless. They've been pushing the diamond engagement ring campaign for so long now, it's become a part of the culture, and it's cheaper and less of a hassle for men to buy a ring than explaining to your girl why you don't believe in a marketing campaign for a worthless rock. Somewhere on our channel, there's an entire video on diamonds. You can check it out by clicking in the top right corner. Number 8. Slavery is dead. How many of you think slavery is dead? We know we're in dangerous waters just mentioning the S word, but let's give it a shot anyway. When we're talking about slavery, we don't think about it in a metaphorical way, the way that large companies make you trade your time and dreams for small amounts of money, barely keeping you afloat in an ever-changing economy. We're talking about actual slaves. Let's break it down. A worldwide estimate puts over 40 million people in the forced labor or sexual slavery area. The number is likely higher than that, but as you know, pimps are not pushing out statistics about how many women they sell on the black market. In the US alone, sexual slavery is a $10 billion industry and growing rapidly. Human trafficking earns profits of roughly $150 billion a year for traffickers, according to the ILO report from 2014. Worldwide, it's actually the second largest criminal industry after the drug trade. You want to have your mind blown? Here are the countries with the largest numbers of human trafficking. Number 1, India. Population in modern slavery, 14.3 million. Number 2, China. Population in modern slavery, 3.2 million. And number 3, Pakistan. Population in modern slavery, 2.1 million. In North Korea, 1 in 10 people is in a forced labor camp, putting the number of slaves in the ballpark of 2 million. These people are worked until they die in mines and fields, and the list sadly goes on. This is one of those topics which we never really think about, but so many lives are devastated because of this. If there is enough interest, at some point we'd like to do a video dedicated specifically to criminal industries, maybe shedding some more light on these issues. Number 9. Your astrological sign determines your destiny. We want to make our position clear on this issue at the start. We believe astrological signs are bullshit. People just use them to justify shitty behaviors, so they can sometimes externalize the blame on something beyond reach, instead of facing the truth and changing for the better. For some reason, people think that the Earth's position around the sun at the moment of their birth dramatically influences their livelihoods in the long term. The problem is, horoscopes are still incredibly popular all around the world. They first began putting them in magazines and newspapers with the goal of selling more copies, and now there are TV channels dedicated to basically scamming people into what is just another form of bogus fortune-telling. You're not compatible with Jake because you're fooling around with Michael, not because he's a Sagittarius and you claim to be a Virgo. Number 10. Only lucky or bad people get super rich. This is how the lazy justify their lack of results. When we say lazy, we don't solely focus on those who do not put in the physical work. Being lazy has a lot to do with resource management. How well you plan things, how well you prepare yourself, how you educate yourself, how you position yourself, and how hard you work and how committed you are to getting results. They never talk about the sacrifices or the trade-offs rich people make in order to get to where they are. People simply can't accept the fact that other people are smarter, have an ability to adapt, and a better understanding of the world than they do. That's why when faced with such a situation, they are quick to attribute the success to an external element, such as luck, because it's an unbearable thing to accept that you simply were not good enough to get it for yourself. This type of thinking is embedded into people since they are young from their unsuccessful parents, and this kind of mistaken mindset has exponential effects as time goes by. We made a really valuable video called 15 Mistakes Young People Make, which is massively underrated on our channel. It can literally change your life for the better if you're aware of small changes you can make when you're starting out. Click in the top right corner to watch. Number 11. Your history as an act of heroism. Time to burst your bubble. You come from a line of criminals and killers, and that's kind of okay. In school, you probably learned about the many victories your country has achieved in war and how they always looked out for their own people. You probably think very highly of your country and its history. That's because the victors write the history book, the defeated are dead or enslaved. Many countries had massive genocides or killed so many people you can only ballpark the figure. In order to cover these crimes, they dress the story in a nicer manner and teach it to young kids as an act of courage and honor. Off the top of our heads, the US. How can you claim you've discovered a land where civilizations are already thriving? 50 to 100 million people were wiped out once the Europeans arrived and took over. More recently, invading countries with the goal of acquiring raw resources, disguised as an attempt to bring freedom around the world. Stalin killed upwards of 60 million people in Russia, and that was 70 years ago. This makes Hitler's 8 million Jews pale in comparison. Rwanda, 1 million people in 100 days. Indonesians had concentration camps only 20 years ago, and let's not even start with the Middle East. Anywhere you look, people have done incredibly horrible things, and you're likely a descendant of those people. Maybe it's time you start questioning some of the things you read in your national history books. Number 12. Your taxes are used to build schools and roads. This is a good one, because in the last couple of years, people have been boiling with anger when it comes to taxation, mostly because of the poor use of resources. It doesn't matter where you live in the world, your taxes are mainly used to fund the salaries of people who are working for the government. The public sector is so widespread and hires so many people that it's actively crippling many economies. We're not implying that there isn't a need for a public sector, but if you look at the numbers, it becomes clear that these people do not generate the amount of value needed to cover their costs. Taxation began as a way to pull in financial resources for development and security projects. If you ask anybody, where do you believe your taxes are going, they'll have a hard time pinpointing exactly what's being done with the money, apart from a blurry answer like the military. This is one of those industries where we look forward to the disruption. We need transparency and digital democratization of how taxes are used. We envision a future where you can select on your device exactly where you want your money, or at least a solid portion of it, to be spent. Unless you can draw a direct benefit relation to your money spent, taxation is theft. Number 13. Your religion is the true one. Everybody else is going to hell. How lovely. Can you feel it? That rage you feel in the air that comes from people who are certain that they were lucky enough to be born in the only one true religion, and it's not a matter of geography at this point. There is a place for spirituality in everyone's journey, and we believe there are incredibly valuable lessons and tools you can take away from religious books and practices. What we never really got accustomed to is the need for separation and disregard for every other religion that isn't your own. Religion has been used by people to cope with the problems of everyday life, and then used by organizations to further political agendas for personal gain. People have been using religion to declare war on others for centuries, labeling them as heretics to a point where religion is less like spirituality and more like an established enterprise. If you remove your own biases and look at the beliefs and actions of the big religions with fresh eyes, as if you just discovered them, you would be in shock. The Catholic Church is exempt from paying taxes. Preachers buy private jets to spread the word of God, and there's enough historical evidence that shows the Catholic Church is probably the largest pedophile ring in history, and despite all that, they are still thriving. Islam's mission is to rid the world of any other religion, and you've seen extremist organizations take the book way too seriously to make sense in the 21st century. They're actually on track to overtake Christianity in the next 30 years. Just look at the stance most religions take towards women's rights, gay rights, and the freedom of thought and science. There's also a clear correlation to show that the more religious a country is, the poorer and less educated the population is. Just check the comment section for this video and you'll see people are not spreading love. If you're curious to know which are the most powerful religions in the world right now, click in the top right corner to watch that video. Number 14. Family should always come first, no matter what. Family is important. Usually it's the most important thing you'll ever have. Our problem lies with the no matter what part of the statement. If you pay attention, you might identify toxic behaviors in your family. This usually happens with strict parents who are also self-centered. Sometimes your family can be the main thing holding you back from reaching your potential. If this is the case, you first try to educate them and see if there's room for improvement, or you'll need to cut them out. Maybe not completely from your life, but position them so their impact on your own life is minimal. Parents should raise strong and independent children who can tackle the world on their own. By being overprotective and not allowing your child to grow, you are actively doing them a disservice, which will have greater results as time goes on. Here are the examples of toxic beliefs. See if your family checks any of them. 1. Children should respect their parents no matter what. 2. There are only two ways to do things, my way and the wrong way. 3. It's wrong for children to be mad at their parents. 4. Your parents are always right. 5. As long as you live in my house, you must obey my rules. And on the opposite end, you have those who never allow their children to grow. 1. Don't ever stop needing me. 2. They buy their children anything they want. 3. They solve their children's problems for them. And so many more. Both parents and children are human. They will make mistakes, and hiding it under the rug doesn't solve any of it. It just makes every party resent each other because deep down they know things are not going right. Number 15. You have time. We've touched upon the overarching theme of time a few times on this channel, but right now we're tackling it from a different perspective. Because time is limited, you'll have to choose what you want to do at the sacrifice of something else. Most people postpone things due to the illusion of unlimited time and opportunities. Yet more and more people find themselves at 40 years old, realizing they hate their jobs and the reality they've constructed for themselves. It's really weird to find yourself halfway through the game and realize you've built your character on the wrong type of class and skills, and you won't be able to start over because you only get one game. Welcome to the real world, where you can reinvent yourself, but you can't really start over. We want to urge you to think about your path for the long run and prepare yourselves for the sacrifices you need to make to get there. Our goal with this entire list wasn't to scare you or offend you. Instead, we really want you to question your beliefs, to start thinking for yourself, and maybe shine a light on a couple of things that some people get wrong. We're curious to know, Aluxers, what other lies have you been told while growing up that you found out to not be true? Let us know in the comments. We'll make sure to personally reply to the most interesting ones. And as always, for watching this already too long video until the end, you get a bonus fact. Number 16. When you die, you'll go to heaven or hell. We know it kind of seems like this was a religious-focused video, but we promise it isn't like that. This might be hard to hear, but the possibility of an afterlife is highly unlikely. Don't get us wrong, it would be epic to keep the adventure going, but the only thing we know for certain right now is that once you die, your brain powers off, your body starts to rot, the energy of your body is transferred to the soil, the worms and germs start to consume you as you regain your place in the natural order. Why is this important, and why did we wish to include it in our Sunday video? We have a different way of looking at life which you, the true Aluxers, might find useful. We believe that this life, right here that we have right now, can either be heaven or hell. That's it. If you play the game right, you can have heaven while you're alive. In the same time, we've seen people go through horrible things as a result of their own actions, something that's as close to hell as we can think of. It's your choice if you'll make heaven now or hope for the one in the afterlife. Now, before we end, we'd like to leave you with our idea of hell. When you die, you get to meet the person you might have become and realize how much more you could have been. Keep that in your mind as you go about your week. If you've watched up to this point, please write truth in the comments below so we can see how many of you still enjoy the long format videos. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxers. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. Thank you for being an Aluxer, and we'll see you back tomorrow.